Ladies and gentlemen, there comes a time in life when we look at the mountain of dreams in front of us and feel paralyzed. We see people running miles ahead while we're still tying our shoelaces. And in that moment of stillness, of fear, of doubt, we often ask ourselves, what difference will a small step make? But let me tell you something today. Greatness is never built in one day. It is built daily. You do not need to take giant leaps to transform your life. You only need to commit to becoming 1% better every single day. That's it. That's your power. Because 1% might look like nothing today, but over time it becomes everything. This is not a race, this is a journey. And in this journey, consistency beats intensity. What you do today, however small, becomes the foundation of who you become tomorrow. The question is not how fast can I go, but can I keep going? And if your answer is yes, then you've already won half the battle. Now, let me share with you 5 powerful ways that hold the secret to this quiet revolution of becoming 1% better every day. Start with one simple change. It is never the weight of the world that breaks us. It's the way we try to carry it all at once. We look at all the things we want to fix, all the dreams we want to achieve, and we try to take it on in one go. But the truth is, transformation doesn't begin with everything. It begins with one thing. One simple, intentional change that says, today I choose to grow. That one change could be waking up 10 minutes earlier, drinking more water, speaking kindly to yourself. It seems small, almost invisible, but that is where the power lives. When you commit to one habit, you shift your identity. You no longer see yourself as someone stuck. You see yourself as someone moving. That motion awakens your inner energy. It tells your brain, I am doing something good for me. And that tiny reward system begins to build momentum. Your confidence doesn't come from success. It comes from evidence. Evidence that you can keep a promise to yourself, even a small one. One change leads to another. The person who meditates for 2 minutes today might become the one who inspires others tomorrow. The one who writes a single paragraph today might become an author next year. It's never about the volume, it's about the direction. And direction is determined by the smallest turn of the wheel. Never underestimate the power of a shift. No matter how small, there's something sacred in the simplicity of beginning. Because the act of starting is in itself a declaration. It's you saying, I matter, my growth matters. You don't need a master plan. You need a moment. One moment where you decide that the next step is possible. You don't need the whole staircase. You just need the courage to take the first step. And when you take that step, the world doesn't change immediately, but you do. You walk differently. You breathe differently. You carry a light inside you that wasn't there yesterday. And as that light grows, the path ahead becomes visible. You don't need all the answers. You just need to trust that the first change will lead to the second. That is how momentum is born from one small, courageous move. In the end, the simplicity of starting is not just practical, it's powerful. It reminds us that we are not here to be perfect, we are here to be progressing. Start small, and the ripple you create will one day become the wave that transforms your world. Discipline is the highest form of self-love. Discipline is not punishment. It is not restriction. It is not a burden. It is one of the most profound forms of self-respect. Every time you show up when it's hard, when it's boring, when it's invisible, you are telling yourself, I am worthy of effort. That is love. Not the fleeting kind that comes and goes, but the kind that stays, that shows up again and again, even when no one is watching. We live in a world that celebrates passion, but forgets the power of routine. But passion burns out without structure. Emotion fades without systems. The person who becomes 1% better every day is not the one who always feels motivated, but the one who is committed, regardless of the mood. And commitment doesn't require noise, it only requires trust. Trust in your own capacity to do what needs to be done, even when you don't feel like it. Discipline is the thread that connects your dreams to your daily life. It is not about being robotic, it's about being intentional. It's about knowing that each small act, reading a page, going for a walk, saying no to distractions is a silent vote for the future you believe in. And every time you make that vote, your self-worth rises. You are showing yourself that you're worth showing up for. The world may not reward your discipline today, but life always honors it in time. Because discipline is the bridge between goals and results. It is the seed you plant, water, and protect long before you ever see the flower. And that waiting, that quiet watering is the ultimate act of faith. You believe in the garden even when it's only soil. And when you begin to live with discipline, you stop negotiating with your dreams. You no longer ask, should I do this? You simply do. And that integrity, that alignment between what you say you want and what you do to get it becomes the source of your power. You don't need permission anymore. You have become your own guide. Discipline doesn't make life smaller, it makes it expansive. Because when you are in control of your actions, you're free. Free from regret, free from self-doubt, free from chaos. You begin to trust yourself. You begin to build something that no one can take from you, character. That character rooted in daily discipline is what carries you through storms, setbacks, and silence. It is the quiet strength that says, no matter how I feel, I will keep going. And in that moment, you become unstoppable. Celebrate tiny wins like big victories. So many of us have been taught to only clap when something big happens, a promotion, a milestone, a massive transformation. But the truth is, if you wait to celebrate only the big wins, you'll spend most of your life feeling like you're not enough. The journey of becoming 1% better each day teaches you that the smallest victories are the ones that carry the deepest meaning, because they are born out of consistency, out of courage, out of inner work that no one sees. When you wake up and make your bed, it matters. When you resist the urge to give up on a hard day, it matters. When you choose growth over comfort, even for 5 minutes, it matters. Each of these moments is a whisper from your future self telling you, thank you for not giving up on me. You are laying the foundation of a life that is built brick by brick, not overnight. Tiny wins build identity. When you start acknowledging the little steps, your mind begins to associate effort with reward. You start seeing yourself as capable. And that shift in identity is far more powerful than any external result, because what you believe about yourself dictates what you allow yourself to do. And if you believe you are making progress, no matter how small, you will keep going. Celebration is not about arrogance. It's about recognition. Recognition of your effort. Recognition of your growth. Recognition of the part of you that refuses to stay stuck. Every time you pause and say, that was hard, and I did it anyway, you feed your soul. You nourish your confidence. You remind yourself that you are showing up, and that is something worth honoring. So light a candle for your tiny win. Write it in a journal. Smile at yourself in the mirror and say, I'm proud of you. These acts of acknowledgement may seem silly, but they are sacred. They train your brain to keep going. They condition your spirit to recognize that progress is not always loud. Sometimes it's a whisper, and you must learn to hear it. We often wait for the world to clap for us. But the person you must learn to clap for is you. Especially on the days when no one else sees your struggle, when no one else knows how hard it was to choose the better path. Those are the days when your own applause becomes your power. And slowly these celebrations become a habit, a mindset, a life. One where you no longer chase validation but embody transformation. One where every step, no matter how small, is honored with the dignity it deserves, progress over perfection. There is a voice inside many of us that says, if I can't do it perfectly, I won't do it at all. And that voice is the greatest enemy of growth, because it convinces us to delay, to overthink, to freeze in the face of possibility. But if you want to improve just 1% every day, perfection cannot be your goal. Progress must be. The messy, imperfect, raw, human kind of progress that doesn't always look good but always moves you forward. Perfection is a lie wrapped in pressure. It tells you that if you don't get it right the first time, you're failing. But that's not how real life works. You learn by trying. You grow by stumbling. You transform by showing up again and again, even when your work is flawed. That's not failure. That's how every master was once a beginner. When you stop aiming for perfection, you give yourself the permission to begin, to start small, to try. And in trying, you discover strength you didn't know you had. you realize that the magic isn't in getting it all right. The magic is in never quitting. And that mindset, that devotion to movement over mastery, becomes the very soil in which your greatness grows. You start to realize that showing up matters more than showing off, that effort matters more than elegance, that truth matters more than being flawless. Because perfection is a performance, but progress is real. And reality is where life happens, not in the highlight reel. You don't have to be the best, you just have to be better than you were yesterday. That's it. That's your only competition. Not the world, not the noise, not the person on the screen, just the version of you from the day before. And every step you take forward, no matter how clumsy, widens the gap between who you were and who you're becoming. And you will fall. You will make mistakes. You will have days where nothing seems to go right. But that's part of the process. Because healing is not linear, growth is not perfect, and transformation doesn't come in a straight line. It comes in circles, in spirals, in detours that lead to destiny. So give yourself grace. Let go of the need to impress. Embrace the sacred mess of becoming. Progress over perfection. That is how you rise. Who you become matters more than what you achieve. In the race of daily life, we often chase results, milestones, titles, thinking that once we get there, we'll finally be enough. But the power of becoming 1% better every day is not in the external achievements, it's in who you are becoming in the process. That inner transformation, that shift in your character, your resilience, your depth, that is the true reward. Every small habit, every tiny win, every intentional choice, they're not just changing your schedule, they're shaping your soul. You're learning patience, you're learning grit, you're learning how to rise after falling, how to love yourself while you're still healing, how to walk with courage even when your legs are trembling. You're becoming someone who doesn't just survive but evolves. Someone who sees failure not as the end, but as the beginning of wisdom. Someone who no longer waits for perfect conditions, but creates growth through imperfect actions. This is not just self-improvement, this is self-evolution. You'll notice that you start treating others with more compassion because you've learned how to be kind to yourself. You'll notice that you listen more because you've practiced listening to your inner voice. You'll notice that your presence starts to inspire others, not because you've arrived, but because you keep going, no matter what. And that's the greatest impact of all, when your journey becomes a light for someone else. When your quiet consistency becomes someone else's motivation. When your story becomes proof that slow growth is still growth, that small steps still move mountains, that real change begins inside. Eventually, it won't be about how many goals you hit. It will be about how deeply you lived, how gracefully you grew, how courageously you kept becoming more of who you were always meant to be. The process will change you in ways no outcome ever could. Because one day you'll look back and realize the real success was not in what you achieved, but in who you chose to become every single day, one small step at a time. At the end of the day. And so, if there's one truth that echoes through every word, every story, and every silent struggle, it is this. You don't have to change your whole life today. You only need to change one small thing. Just 1%. One better choice. One braver action. One kinder thought. And then tomorrow, you do it again and again and again. Until that 1% becomes your new identity, your new rhythm, your quiet revolution. The world may never notice the silent battle you fight each morning to rise when you'd rather quit. It may never applaud the small victory of showing up when everything in you wants to hide. But you will know. You will feel it in your bones, the shift, the strength, the stillness that comes from choosing growth, choosing effort, choosing you every single day. This journey is not glamorous, it's not loud, it's not perfect, but it is real, it is honest, and it is powerful beyond measure. Because the person who improves 1% every day will always outrun the one who waits for the perfect moment to begin. The compound miracle of small, consistent action will always outweigh occasional intensity. So do not wait for inspiration to strike like lightning. Do not wait for the applause or the permission. Just begin right where you are with what you have in your own way. Because when you commit to becoming a little bit better each day, no matter how small the progress, you become unstoppable, unshakable, and undeniably alive. And when the world finally sees you bloom, when it finally sees the strength, the grace, the greatness you've built, let them know it wasn't an overnight miracle. It was 1% every single day. In silence, in struggle, in faith. That's the power. That's the path. That's the promise of small daily progress.